Hi everyone, it's Shell from Shell Crochet. Welcome to my November 2022 crochet update. Let's talk whips and finished objects. It's Shell. How are you today? I hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining me. And sorry that this video is a few days late because the last day of the month fell on a Wednesday this year. So in order to get my temperature blankets all updated, I needed a couple of extra days. Anyway, we're good to go now. And I also am aware that Vlogmas is probably starting up and a lot of Advent unboxings and things like that. So wanted to wish everyone well with all of that, and I look forward to being able to catch some of the videos as time allows from time to time. And I think I'll just also let you know, I'll be back at some point in the month of December, probably before Christmas, with my December update and just kind of a wrap up of 2022. And I will be showing you some Advent stuff as well, some 12 days of Christmas stuff actually that was a complete surprise to me, but I'll get into that in the next video. Anyway, yeah, so my video will be a little earlier than normal just so I can say hey for Christmas one more time. And then we'll see what 2023 brings. Anyway, let's talk about what I was able to make in the month of November. Here we go. It's that time of the year, right? And things have already walked out the door. I had been asked to make a couple of hats to go with some scarves that I had previously made, and those walked out the door without me even taking pictures of them. But I will pop up a couple of hats here. It's just a navy blue and a black spiral beanie. So I like to do the spiral beanies to not have a seam on my hats. And so I learned that trick from Mikey at the Crochet Crowd. And you can look that up if you want to. If you have any questions, let me know. And then I do some post stitches at the brim of the hats, mostly just at the brim. And in order to make a nice soft fabric, both navy blue and black were requested by somebody. Plain hats, like solid color hats, not plain. And so both held double, and the navy blue one is made with Tencel soft worsted, which I got at Spin Right years ago. Actually, this one Debbie might have even sent me because the navy blue, I don't think I've found at Spin Right myself. And it is usually Bernat satin that they label as the Tencel soft worsted. It works up just the same as Caron Simply Soft, and that's what I had for the black. So I had a couple of skeins of the Caron Simply Soft that I was able to hold double for the black. Anyway, just a picture of this one, as they have already gone to their forever home as well. Okay, on to the next. I had one skein of puzzle yarn, and I don't even know if this colorway is made anymore. If I find the label, I'll put the name in the screen. And it's led me to something very interesting. But before I get all off topic, let's look at the blanket. It's just a small little car seat baby blanket. And it is initially 26 blocks by 26 blocks. And then it's got a round of the brick stitch border in the blue and a round in the white, just to have a nice finish on that blanket. Colors are blowing out a little bit on screen. They appear a little bit more muted, and it's kind of like a yellow meets lime green vibe, and it's very marled throughout. But what it led me to when I was done the block, I want to show you my cheat. So there's my cheat there to finish. It was 26 by 26, and I really liked the size of the block. And been inspired all year by Carrie Penny and all of her blocks she's been making with C2C. I've never actually made a C2C blanket where I put squares together. So I think that's going to be on my stash busting agenda for 2023. And I think I'm going to make nice big ones. But this was, puzzle yarn is technically a 5 per the label, but it works up very similar to a 4 in my opinion. And actually what I did was gradually went down hook sizes. So I made the square in one hook size, and then the blue is another one, and this one's another one. So I think it went 7, 6.5, and then 6, just to make it a nice tight border. But yeah, that's what I think I'm gonna do. Some 26 by 26 blocks. And I mean, it doesn't matter to me if it's a bit smaller than this in worsted weight yarn, because it's gonna end up in a blanket at some point. And then decide how many I need for a blanket for next year. So that'll just be kind of like an ongoing project for next year. But this is just something I whipped up because I had the one skein and I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. Which leads me to 2 other single skein projects that I didn't know what I wanted to do with. Okay, so first of all, this one. This I'm pretty sure came in a swap. It might have even come in the swap I did with Lori at the beginning of the year. Hi, Lori. And it is a cowl and hat set. So on this particular spiral beanie, now that I have one to talk to you about, so we don't have any seam anywhere, but I do come out of the spiral sometimes so I can put some extra texture for post stitches. So I'll just basically start single, half double, double, double for as many rounds as I want. And then when I want to make a seam so I can do post stitches, I go half double, single, and then I go up and do my post stitches. So I did that much there, and then back down here with some other way around again to single, half double, doubles, and then back down for more post stitches at the bottom there. I've been making hats on and off like this for years now. It doesn't show the best in this yarn because of the colors, but I love this yarn. I have a very similar one where instead of having the pink run through it, it has a red. But yeah, so I thought it would work out great to have like a set out of the one skein of the puzzle yarn. These, I'm going to call them puzzle yarns, but some of them could be impeccable. No, not impeccable. Some of them could be the loosened threads matching. Charisma. Some of them could be that. This one could be Charisma actually, which would make sense if the puzzle yarn is slightly a different color in it. And sometimes when I look at the neutral that's running through the blues, it looks yellow to me, but I think it's actually gray. So I don't know how well that's showing up on screen, but I'm not going to model today. We'll discuss why later. But here you got an idea. It's a hat and cowl set. And for the cowl, I think I pretty much just did, basically with these, I've been starting with the top here with a smaller stitch count intentionally. So this one I started with like a nice loose chain and then some post stitches, and then I just winged these. So I did some half doubles, some doubles. I did some of the 2-stitch in this one, and then got to a place where I was doing some more half doubles and doubles because I knew I wanted to get to the bottom and be able to make it nice and wide to sit over the shoulders, which it does. And just finished with a round of half double at the very bottom. So they're nice and cozy, and they're great for like being able to tuck into under your coat and then have it around your shoulders if you're chilly when you're not wearing your coat, if you're out or something like that. So, and also these were not sized for me. These were sized for whoever wants them. The second skein I have was in lavenders. Actually, you know what I have? A picture of the 2 labels where I wrote the name on it because I think I was thinking ahead. Yay, here's a picture. So the purple version, very similar. This one has some actual granny stitch in it. I just wanted to give a little bit of interest in the middle of the cowl. And the brim on this one I did a bit different with a little bit of interest. I put some granny stitches in the hat because there's some granny stitches in the cowl. And so another nice little set. And one whole skein of Charisma, I want to say. Is that right? You saw it. What did the label say? Anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. So sticking with some little things, I'm going to pop up a picture of some hot pads I made, starting with a cup of hot chocolate. There is a hot pad held double. With these projects, I was using scraps of cotton, regular handicrafter cotton, which is like a 4-weight, dishcloth cotton. Here in Canada, we have tons of it. And I held it double with some textured yarn from Mary Maxim they used to have. And it's also 100% cotton. It's ribbon yarn. I didn't even know what ribbon yarn was when I got it. And it just has, it's one of their versions of scrubby yarns that they've had in the years past. I don't think they sell it anymore. But it makes for great texture on things. I had some pumpkins made out of it that I was put out on my counters at the fall and for Halloween. And they're great because it just gives some extra texture to what's going on with the kitchen cotton. And bonus, you're not holding 2 strands of kitchen cotton together. It's a little bit of a break of the ribbon yarn with the kitchen cotton and how it feels when you work with it. Anyway, so I started out with that mug of hot chocolate, which was inspired by the little guy that's beside him there in the picture. And then I also made a star. So the star pattern I follow is from Jayda and Stitches, which is a granny stitch inspired star. And that is held double with just regular red and then the scrubby red. So I love that one as well. And then I made a tree. And the tree, I just winged a triangular pattern with increases or decreases probably. Did I start at the bottom or the top? I don't remember. I think I started at the top, so I was doing increases, and then I held that double with just the regular green yarn, and then at the bottom I used the textured yarn with brown to make the stem of the tree. So that's cool too. And I kept the mug of hot chocolate and the star from my counter, and the tree is a gift along with this. My first time doing a puff stitch type inspired dishcloth where you get a pattern out of it. So it's got the puff stitches as the tree shape on the dishcloth. And I just kind of, I think I found a tutorial, but then there was a link to a free pattern with chart. So I just grabbed the chart and I used the chart to make the cloth. And I have the chart tucked away. So that's cool to have. I'll probably look at some additional charts like that to try doing those from time to time next year when there's more time. I feel like I have no time right now. Anyway, yeah, that was fun to do. And my husband recognized that there was a tree on there right away. So that will make a nice gift set, a trivet / hot pad and a dishcloth for someone for this Christmas. Basically, all that was just winging it. I didn't really follow any patterns per se. I gave you the tips of, if I can find out where that chart was, I'll let you know. And other than that, I think I gave you all the information I have. If you have any questions, let me know. And on to the next. Yes, I'm doing it on purpose, and I know you guys know what I'm talking about, but it'll be at the end. I'm gonna have a special guest and all. So let's talk about temperature blankets. We are through November, barely. Just finished these up. So 5 more rows of color, and then, oh my God, I don't know which end is which. 5 more rows of color, and then the border and top rows, and this one will be done. So it was so wacky in November here. It was, I would have to say overall, it was a lot warmer than normal. The temperature swings were crazy. We celebrated our anniversary in the middle of the month, and it was something like 15 degrees most of the time we were away. But anyway, here we go. 5 weeks for high temperatures in the month of November. We got coral, clay, ether blue, teal, dark teal, and then my 2 rows of border. This ether represents 0 or 3 degrees Celsius to 0. So you can see it was getting kind of cold, but up to the corals, right, which was in the teens. So it's looking awesome, and it's a nice size. So again, I'm sitting on my couch. That is touching the floor, and I'm holding it up, and it's taller than me on the couch. Comes right up to there on me. So it's perfect throw size blanket. I thought these were going to be kind of small, but they're not a bad size at all. I'm tempted to do something with the other one, but you'll see why in a minute. Or not why, but I'll tell you my idea in a minute. So there is the high temperatures for November. Done. The reason we're late. And the low temperatures. This one only has 1 row of divider row, and the divider row color is black. And we have dark teal, ether blue, 2 rows of denim and another ether blue, and the black. So for low temperatures, we have some below 0 here. This is 0 to 3 here again, and this was a little warmer. It was weird, like Tuesday this week, for example, I think the low temperature was like 6 or 7 degrees, but then the next day, the low temperature came at like 11 o'clock the next night, and it was already below 0. So big swings in temperatures. And we've had snow already. There's a little bit from yesterday, but the original snow we had is long gone. Anyway, these are looking great. And this is my thought, because this one has so much purple at the bottom. I know someone who has their eye on this too. I'm thinking of doing an extra month so it's more balanced and you get extra purple. I'm gonna have the yarn. I have the yarn all set aside already, right? So we'll see after. Obviously I'm gonna get like full pictures of them finished based on the project that they were, but this one might be a 13-month temperature blanket just for fun. Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Does that sound like a good idea? Anyway, I may let the person who wants this decide, but we'll see. Anyway, that is all done. Okay. I'm trying to think if that's all for whips and littles, so I could talk about the bigger things. Let's think about that for a sec. Okay, so no more elephant in the room. My sweater is done. Yay! I took a little clip while it was being in the assembly required stage, so I'm going to insert that clip now. Hey everyone! I just thought I'd show you the layout for my sweater. I actually had a table to make use of today. We're on a little getaway, a little anniversary getaway in the middle of November here. And so this is how I ended up doing it. So you can ignore this. It's part of my pillow. I just have some yarn and some stuff I'm using to sew, but I'm gonna turn around. So this is how I've decided to do it. So it's 5 squares across for the back section. You're now looking at it sideways, just so that the video is the right direction. And there are 4 rows of 5 squares. There is a shoulder row, and then there are 4 rows of 2 squares, 2 panels of 2 squares each. So I have a neck area and a shoulder area. So I've chosen to have this break here for my shoulder area, and then go the same number down to help the sweater not ride up in the front. And you know, for my size and my shape, I think it'll do best that way. I probably will also opt to not join the 2 corner squares, the 2 light silver squares at the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, and leave that part open. And basically the arms will be built on coming out of that section there. Maybe a little bit of that part too, we'll see. And what else do I have to say? So I will fill in the center, you know, when I build my collar. And yeah, so these are 5.5 to 6 inch grannies. I think the colors are called Rose, Gray Marble, Ash, and Burgundy Marble. And you can see with these, they're all that heathered style. And then the dark one is called Charcoal. I remember that one. So we will see how it all comes together. It's nice to have a table. Usually I wouldn't have this, and it's difficult for me to do it on the floor for my back. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled programming. Okay, so the bulk of my time in November was 2 sweaters. Anniversary sweaters, so to speak. I made them for myself and my husband in celebration of our 10th wedding anniversary, which was in the middle of November, so yay for us. And he was going to make an appearance in this video, but he actually is too busy at work right now. So I may take a clip with him and just put it in at the end, or we may save him for next month because I have plenty to talk about without him anyway. The sweater I made for my husband is a regular over-the-shoulder style sweater I make all the time. I made one for my mom last year, and I follow loosely the pattern tutorial from Chris at the Secret Yarnery for the Tammy sweater. I do not do the big bulky sleeves, but I do follow the bones of her tutorial for how to make the sweater. And I've made several, and those of you who've been around a while know that. So if you have any questions at all, I can point you in the direction of a couple of my other videos where I talk about the sort of style in which you make those over-the-shoulder sweaters. So both of our sweaters are made in Premier anti-pilling worsted weight, and it's called Everyday Medley. And basically it is a line of heathered yarns. So they all have a little bit of something going on in them. So for both of the sweaters, I used a 6mm hook, and the colors. For my husband's, the bulk of his sweater is made in Hunter Marble. It's like a really dark green, and the trim, the collar, and the sleeves and the edging of the bottom are all made with a brown that I seem to not have written the name down for. And then for mine, I have Berry Marble, Rose, Gray Marble, and Ash. And then the trim is Charcoal. Okay, so you saw in the clip basically how I assembled the sweater, and I sewed the individual squares together in the longest strips possible. So I started doing this with hubby's sweater. I realized I always like to know what the inside is. And I hesitate to crochet things together because I don't like the ridge. The ridge works great for showing you what the inside is. So for my sweater and for hubby's sweater, on the inside here, there's a seam for where I put the two long panels together here, and on his sweater I guess underneath his arm is where his seam is, so that I could see the inside of his sweater. But yeah, I don't know why that's never occurred to me before, because usually I'll tie a little thing in the back of the neck so that you can see what the inside is. And yeah, so now I'm doing it that way and I like it quite a bit. So whip stitched the squares together into strips and then single crocheted them together fully. So the back has a set design of how many, and mine was 5 so that I could have an odd number. And then there's a missing part from a head. And I opted to put an extra one here just for the shoulders. And it worked great because you always need that extra room. I've talked about this before, but folding something exactly in half and then expecting to be able to wear it isn't reasonable on the human body, because the human body is not flat. So regardless of how much extra you need, everybody needs a little bit. But yeah, so then I just needed to know what the width of my squares were. And so for the middle part here, I just did exactly half a square worth of granny stitching to make it what I needed it in the front. And in terms of the lapel here, if you want to call it that, or the front part of the collar, I just did a thing where I would only go up so far. So when I finished as much as I was going to finish, and when I was ready for like a real trim, I started stopping the granny stitch at a certain point. So stopped it, didn't pick up to keep it straight, and kept going down. So I would skip basically a shell each time, and it just provided me with like a nice round edging, which you can probably see a little bit better on me than on my black shirt, but it just provided that nice, I just had to kind of play with it as I was just doing the final row of single crochet around it to make sure it sat properly. And then I had ends there, so I could use those ends to sort of seam it in properly there and get the rounded. This is why when you don't actually use patterns, you don't learn the proper way to do things, you just wing it. So the only real sweater styles I've ever made are that other one I was talking about, and then the granny square kind. And I didn't ever follow a pattern for this. I just kind of made this up in my own head out of the experience I had had of making the straight sweaters. So anyway, let's end up babbling. Onto the sleeves. They're fake out grannies, so the sleeves are in the round. I just do them the same number of rows as the granny square would take up, with the same number of divider rows. So all the squares have 2 rounds of the charcoal on them, so the same for the sleeves. And then I just had this tiny amount left of the rose and the burgundy, so I used one on each side. I don't mind having it different, so it was just to bring it back in. The sleeve's actually longer than this. I had it done on purpose so that I could roll it up if I want. And yeah, so it is a true granny square cardigan. I did the, I like to do this thing where the top and the bottom match. So I'll have to show you a picture so that you can see what I'm talking about. But for the sides where I was showing you, those two are the same color square. So the silver and the silver, they're front and back the same. So that's where the split is for me on the side here. And in the front, it's the rose color and the rose color. Like, that's just the pattern that I chose. You can play around with it as much as you want. It would also look awesome if it didn't have any sense to it whatsoever. But I was just playing with matching it up that way so that it was even. And I had to work with a set number. So I think I told you way back when I started working on the grannies that each individual skein of the Premier anti-pilling would give me 9 squares. So I used 9 of the rose and the burgundy, but I had 2 of the dark gray, which saved me a bit because I think I needed 11 of the dark gray and 11 of the silver to make my pattern work. And that was before I did the sleeves. So it all worked out well. You can see like the shoulder part, it comes way down the arm. So the sleeves actually start, because you can see there's a seam here, right? So the sleeves are right here. That's it. I think mine's been done for about 2 weeks, 10 days-ish, completely done. I know I've worn it before today one day. Mine hasn't actually been in the dryer or anything yet, and This yarn is lovely. It feels great on my body. It's super warm. I'm surprised I've been able to last with it on for the whole podcast today. But I love this yarn. I would definitely make things again in it. The one thing about heathered yarns I don't love is that you can sometimes see the yarn that they're using to color or heather it, especially on the charcoal. You'll see like tufts of the white. I'm not a big fan of that. I've talked about that before, but overall the feel and the look are awesome. I'm very interested to see on how that Mako anti-pilling is in comparison to this yarn, because anti-pilling is where I want to live in terms of my world of acrylic going forward. I want to focus on it because of the durability of it and the fact that it'll have a better life cycle if it's with the anti-pilling side. So anyway, that is my sweater talk for today. And like I said, I'll either have a clip of hubby at the end. There are some adjustments I still may do to his sweater. I feel like with the anti-pilling worsted weight yarn, it's not very thick at all. It's plenty warm, don't get me wrong, but in terms of how it drapes, I might have been better off using a smaller hook for his because it's not in granny squares, it's in the whole weight of the sweater is hanging at all times. So anyway, that's just something for me to think about. But overall, great. And yeah, it took up quite a bit of time. And that's why there were so many little things you were seeing. I was calling them my palette cleansers. Whenever I felt like I needed a break, I just worked on something small and something that I could finish. And also when we were on our little getaway, it was kind of like a cottage type getaway, but for the winter. It was just to be relaxing, right? So I strategized that I only took a couple of balls of yarn that I could make like a hat with, or I took the cotton up there, and that's how those kitchen hot pad type things started to come to play, because I wanted a little bit of a break from working only on the sweaters. And I mean, I did go back and forth between the two sweaters, but still it was a lot to focus on all at the same time. And it wasn't fun. It felt like work. The outcome is amazing, but there's still times where we're crocheting where it feels a little bit more like work than it does feel like having fun. So I do have one more thing to show you, and it is another sweater. And this was also a challenge because this has been requested and there was no real date in mind. But when you have something that someone wants, it always feels like it needs to get finished. So I put a self-imposed date of the beginning of December, and then it's working out that it's basically due by December 11th. So I still have time, but I'm making a size medium version of this sweater. Just one moment. I think I knocked the camera a little, so you're at a bit of a different angle right now, but I think everything's still fine. So this is living in my Stitch Fest bag. So you guys all are familiar with the granny square poncho I made last time with daisies on it. If you're not, go back and have a look at the October video. But that girl has a friend who has now seen this poncho and a few of her other things and wanted a sweater. So I'm going to pop up a picture here of the template. Let's talk about that first. I finally found a program that helps with plotting out things like granny squares, because it's a grid where you can just plop the colors in, and it's better than the thing I was trying to use before for the poncho. But anyway, this is what I came up with in terms of laying out her sweater. Here's a picture of the yarn. This is the yarn she wanted, the colors she wanted. A lot of the colors are the same sparkle yarns that were in the Daisy Granny Square poncho, and so it's much smaller because it's a size medium. So basically I'm using a medium t-shirt as a guide for this cardigan I'm making now, and you saw the layout. So I have 17 squares that needed to get made, and I have 3 in this cinnamony color brown. I have 2 in the clay. I have 4 in the sparkle teal. I have 4 in the sparkle burgundy. And I have 4 in the sparkle sand color, I'm gonna call it. And they all have the trim with the gold sparkle. So that is in the assembly required stage. And I looked up some pictures of other granny cardigans, and most of them are very busy because they have multiple colors in the actual grannies, but I found some neat striping for this area in here, and it's going to allow me to pull in the colors that are not the sparkle yarn a little bit more. I might be able to do it a bit on the sleeves as well, but these two. She wanted these sort of autumnal colors that all go together, and she really liked the teal sparkle from the poncho. So we went with that, and yeah, so I have to figure out a way of doing the sleeves to make them work, and then have a little bit of striping in the center for her midsection. And she's also requested a button, so I'll be putting that on. But yeah, so that was also on the hook in the month of November. And yeah, I think that's about it. So we are already getting together to see my dad and stepmom on the weekend, because we also celebrate his birthday in the month of December, and they live a little ways away, so we like to get it all accomplished before the weather gets to be too much of an issue. And it's put me in sort of high gear for this week. It's been extremely busy this week, and then it will be into next week up until the 11th, and then I'll feel like I can calm down a little. Yeah, so aside from finishing up that sweater, I don't really have anything on the agenda for December, which feels good. I don't have any gifts that I still need to make or anything like that. Most of the things I made for Christmas are just little things like those hot pads I was talking about earlier. But all along, I just wanted something very simple and mindless to be able to work on in the month of December. And my goal was to use the yarn from those mystery balls I was talking about earlier this year. So I've heard about this from Debbie, the Canadian crocheter, but lots of people talk about this. So basically this is using up your smallest parts of your scraps and turning them into big balls. And I think I talked about it earlier in the year that I had been able to make 4 of them. Well, I have those 4, plus I have any scraps left over from the temperature blankets. Like all the warm months are all up for grabs now too, because I know I'm not going to get to those. But these are my goals to get through first. And I made this blanket really big. So it is started, and I used my couch that I'm sitting on here as a guide, and it should be king size when it's done. But my goal is to get all of those big mystery balls in there. And some of the yarn that's left over from the temperature blankets, there's more of it. So I know I'm gonna get at least across a row or 2. Whereas when you come out of the ball like this, it changes wherever it changes, right? And sometimes you might get a long stretch, depends on the scrap you've put into the ball, but often they are doubling back with themselves, and you're ending up with a clump of color on one side that's not represented at the other side, especially when you make it as wide as I have. So what I like about using the blankets that are left over from the temperature throws is for sure the color is going to carry right across, at least on certain rows. So that's that. I also had this, I don't know where this came from. This might have came from Tangled Yarn I got from Cambridge Fireworks a couple years ago. But I had a nice big ball of this. It's a weird white color. It's not exactly white. And I started the blanket with it. So I'll make sure I bring it into the blanket somewhere around the midpoint and then save some for the bottom. It's not enough for the border. I know that now because of how big this blanket's gonna be. I'm probably gonna go into my actual stash, into one of my big monster ball type yarns to use for the border of the blanket at the very end. But this is gonna be the bulk of what I'm working on in the month of December, just for relaxation and fun. I love when color just changes. I don't know why, but it's just fun for me for like looking to be what's the next color to come out of the ball. It's like working with a cake, but you can't see inside it. So that's fun for me, and I will show it to you next time, along with some 12 Days of Christmas stuff that I'll get to open. I'll do some clips for you here and there. I can't guarantee it will be daily or anything, but I will share it with you. And yeah, that's about that. I hope you guys are all enjoying this time of year. I know it can be hard, so I hope you're breathing, and I hope you're getting some time for yourselves, and that you all have the most wonderful Christmas, and we will see you at some point in the month of December. Thank you for spending this time with me. There may or may not be a little more at the end after this. Have a great day, everybody, and happy crochet. Bye. Hey, look who I found. It's Shin, aka the Hubs, aka Chris.
Yes, it's all
wearing his beautiful sweater that we just discussed without him because he was busy at work, like I said. But anyway, so here it is.
My arm.
And it's actually showing a lot lighter, more heathered even, I guess, on camera than it is in person. It's a bit darker than this. It's a very interesting color. When you first see the yarn on the ball, it kind of looks almost black, but it's not. It's definitely green. And yeah, like I said, we're still working on deciding about the collar. I may add some more, and I will get him to do a little twirl, and I'll insert that little clip at the end right after this. Anything to say, babe?
No, not really.
No?
No.
No, thanks for my anniversary sweater?
Oh, thanks for my anniversary sweater.
Good. Good that I remind you now.
Like, subscribe, and something. Share.
Stuff I never say.
Yeah.
All right. Toodaloo, everyone. And here's the full look of the sweater. Awesome modeling, babe. Thanks.